to disaster. And when I read all these wise acres, no group of men are wiser than a foreign correspondent who's been here 6 months. You know, if I were an Israeli, every letter, every wrong article will get a letter in reply. But it's so silly. They got it all wrong. They don't even know what happened when we were independent. They've come here, the thing works. Why? Lack of human rights, free press, tame, docile, too clean, sterilized. I thought to myself, God, I should get their predecessors back. One day, perhaps I should go through the old list of men who used to interview me in the 1950s and 60s and get SIA to fly them back. Free. The stench, the filth, the total confusion, the sense of despair and hopelessness. What did it? Human rights? Are they bankable? I used to tell them, and I said this on television often to them, I said, look, you tell the British government or the Australian government that they underwrite. If anything goes wrong, they will admit 2 million people. At that time, we were less than 2 million, 1.9 million people. They will admit them to Australia or Britain or America, and I will follow what you tell me. And if it comes to grief, you take my people. When you have no food, you tell me where you go when you haven't got a job. You go to the UN, you're right, or ILO in Geneva, all minimum conditions, minimum wage, what they should get. Millions are unemployed. What are they talking about? 30 million in Europe. You will turn up at the ILO office and they will give you a job. When you are hungry, you will go to the FAO. They will give you food. Or you're sick, you got no medicine, you go to WHO. Is it bankable? This is the only bank you have, the Singapore government. And if we don't do it right, your checks won't be honored. One flip of the coin and it goes sour and we have 20% unemployment. What do you do? Let's say 200,000. And it has happened, you know. I dug up the figures from the annual reports. 1929, 1933, the Depression years. The British repatriated over 600,000 Indians and Chinese, back to China, back to India. From Singapore alone, 200,000. Where are we going to repatriate our Chinese and our Indians and our Malays too? You're going to send them back to India and to China and to Malaysia or Indonesia? You're going to do this? Where do you queue up for your work permit? You know how they come here to get a job? They get cheated, robbed. So contemplate all this, and I say this especially for the growing group of the intelligentsia who read these magazines. Just remember, who wrote it? What is his stake? What is his interest in your future? Before you believe him. I was once asked a whole series of questions by an Australian. Why we ban long hair, and why are we so tough on people who smoke marijuana, and so on and so forth. You know, it's so tiresome, so many things to do. So I said to him, look, listen, let's assume that I'm only three-quarters. It's presumptuous, but let's assume that I'm only three-quarters as bright as you are. But I spend 20 hours of the day puzzling over this problem. You have only spent less than 20 minutes to think up all these questions. Do you think you know more about this and what's going to happen if I listen to you, or that in fact I have thought my problem through? They can't solve the heroin problem in Britain. The Lord Chief Justice says it's now gone rampant. I was doing my aerobics on my rowing machine, and I had BBC on, and they quoted Lord Chief Justice Lane. And he was very vivid. He says, there's no need to rob a bank. There's no need to take that risk. All you got to do is to sell heroin to the kids, and they will rob their parents. There's no need to rob the banks. You run a serious risk. When we were faced with this problem, we said, look, either they hang, or it'll never stop. And they didn't believe that we would hang them. We had to hang 4 before a dramatic drop. But you know, Amnesty International and all this human rights, they say, hanging is wrong. I say, look, if you believe them, when your child is, or your teenage son is a victim, look for them. See what remedy they have for you.